What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Dolphins Daily, your daily dose of Dolphins content, and a shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Again, for those of you who want to support the channel, right there, hit that QR code and just get started today. Super easy for those of you who aren't really experienced with this. Plenty of prop bets, plenty of fun games to play on the app. I've been using it. I've been doing pretty well, if I say so myself. But if you need any help, let me know. Hit me in the comments. I got you. But again, hit that link, get started. And again, big shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring the video. Let's talk about the Dolphins. Okay. What we've been saying from the beginning took place. As soon as we had a coaching vacancy, my initial research was like, hey, they kind of like Jeff Hafley. Said that from the beginning. It seems like everything played out according to plan. We hired Jeff Hafley today. He was the Packers defensive coordinator. He's now the Dolphins' newest head coach. And this was, I think, entirely predictable. Once we got John Eric Sullivan, again, a Green Bay guy, it seemed very consistent that he would hire the guy he already worked with. The team was super high on Jeff Hafley. Apparently, interviews, he blew everybody away. From what I've researched and from what I saw, basically the situation was what he got in the room and they didn't want him to leave. You ever go to a car dealership and they're like, all right, what do we have to do to put you in a car today? It was basically, what do we have to do to put you in the Dolphins hat today? And that's kind of what it came down to. And, you know, people who have worked in Green Bay's media have come out and said, hey, this guy's going to blow you guys away. He's really awesome. He has great energy and you're going to fall in love with him. We will see. I will tell you that Jeff Hafley was not my personal first choice for the job. I think I've made that clear throughout the channel. I like people who are, I think, extra elite at their position who didn't get coaching jobs. Jeff Hafley was good at his position. Green Bay was in the top 10 both his years. But I think Green Bay's had amazing talent, and I think he did well with the talent he had. When they had Micah Parsons this year, early on especially, I was like, whoa, these boys like world beaters. And then as the year went on, they got a lot worse. And then when Micah was out, the defense was terrible. But again, Micah's one of the 4 or 5 best defensive players in the league, and you lose him, I expect some drop off. But as a dude, as a leader, apparently he's wowed everybody he needed to wow. So I am willing to give him a shot. Of course, this is not pessimism. I'm just letting y'all know where I am on the front end. I don't want to be phony on the show. Y'all know when I like things, I say it. If I don't like it, I say it. I had Jeff as 3 or 4 on my list as coaches to hire, but I'm fine with it because it seems like there is some order to the hiring. This wasn't some left field, who's that guy, why we bring him in situation. This was John Eric came in with the vision, and then the coach he brought in to execute the vision, he's already known, and they probably have talked behind the scenes of, hey, man, if you ever become GM here, let's do this. And then he got the job here. So I think there's some cohesion there. And what's been happening up to this point is that we haven't been good between like team level and front office level. Talent hasn't been where it needs to be. Coaching accountability hasn't been where it needs to be. And it seems like these two are lockstep at this moment, which is what we need to build a new foundation. You got to be on the same page, got to be speaking the same language, got to know we're going to the same place. And if you're doing that, then we will see how it works out. I'm sure at some point Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel thought they're going the same way. Hey, I can make your quarterback good. You give me some talent. And then Chris Greer said, I'm going to mortgage our future and bring in Jalen Ramsey and bring in Tyreek and do all these things. And then it just didn't work. They were on the same page. It just didn't work. We're hoping that this time around, the same pageness does work out. Green Bay has been largely one of the best franchises over the last, 50 years. So if they can take any of those winning intangibles and just organizational execution here, then I think let's make it happen. I'm waiting for it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. There's not much more to say at this moment, so I would just wait until more starts happening. Now, in my research for this show, I did see some rumors, some research that said the Dolphins were really in love with Jeff Hafley. Made no mistake about it. He blew him away. I said a week and a half ago he was a leading choice before they did any interviews. So obviously they already had their eye on him. But according to all the research, Jeff Hafley was supposed to go to the Raiders to interview tomorrow. Or I guess when you're seeing this today. And the Raiders were really high on him. The Raiders were like, hey, we're going to get Francisco Mendoza. We bring in Jeff Hafley. He'd get our defense right. We bring in the right offensive mind for Mendoza. We're going to build our team around that. That's kind of where the Raiders were kind of leaning towards. He had already interviewed with Tennessee. And apparently Tennessee was really high on him too, and they were trying to figure out, I guess, logistical things. Like, are we going to offer him yet? Or is he just number one? We have a couple more interviews. So it seemed like Jeff was very much in a position where if Miami didn't offer him the job today, that the Raiders might offer him the job tomorrow. And so Miami may have pushed their decision a little sooner than they kind of wanted to. I believe, for the record, they always wanted Jeff. I think every other interview wasn't a sham. I do think that someone could have wowed them outside of that. But I do think he very much had an inside track, and I do think he had to do something really bad in the interview to not get the job. I think he was already a man. But with someone like Sean McDermott becoming available, did that warrant a conversation? Because allegedly, we never reached out. We never had an interview. We never even did like a virtual. And would that have been a conversation worth having? We were talking about reaching out to Joe Brady for a virtual, and then that kind of didn't happen. So it's like they were doing the due diligence, it seemed. But part of me is wondering, I'm not going to say was it shammy. Let me say this. I generally believe most teams know exactly who they want to hire, and they're just going through the interview process for Rooney purposes and somewhat of a shamness. I very much believe that. I don't think it's an accident that people reported, oh, this guy's going to end up at this location the minute they get fired. Like, I do think there's some back channeling. I do think there's some bad conversations. I do think that stuff happens. I think there are some teams who are like, yeah, we really don't know who we want. And we're going to kind of see how the interview goes. Like, I don't know if Tennessee knows who they want. I think they want Clint Kubiak, but I think they are also like, if someone came along and really was amazing, I think they could move off of that. But I do think in this case, I think Miami knew where they wanted to go, but maybe possibly thought if Hafley didn't have more interviews lined up, let's take a few more days. Again, we brought Shula up before, but now the Rams are in the conference championship. So they would have had to wait another week to interview. And it's like, do we want to wait a week for him? Or do we want to take the guy that we think we want right now? I do think there was some duress. I do think had we waited that we would have lost Jeff. I do think he would have gone to either place. The Raiders are not a well-run organization. Let's just be honest. But the idea of you giving me a 5-year contract, a rookie quarterback, and I think the Raiders have some money to spend on free agency. Max Crosby will most likely get traded. But if that's the starting point, not a bad situation. I got to work with Tom Brady. Hopefully we can start building this team. I can see why the Raiders job would have been attractive. But Miami went and got their man. And so here we are. Even if it was a little bit under duress, I do think it was a decision they were going to make. I think it's a situation where if you have something in your cart and it's like you see that little red clock saying, oh, 1 hour to buy, you're like, I was probably going to buy it, but maybe tomorrow or the day after, let me just buy it right now. I think that's where Miami ended up with Jeff Hafley. But again, it wasn't pure. It did seem like he was like, hey, if y'all want me, I need that in writing today. Otherwise, you may not see me again. If you do, I could be wearing a different jersey. So shout out to Jeff and his people for leveraging that. And shout out to Miami for getting the guy that I've said from the jump they wanted. They went and got him. So it all worked out in the end. Football playoffs are here, and Underdog's the best place to get on all the action. Playing Underdog is easy. Just pick if your favorite player will go higher or lower on various stats, including rushing yards, receiving yards, passing touchdowns, etc. Get them right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. Now, y'all know I went 3-2 2 weeks ago, 4-1 last week, so I'm doing pretty good. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use promo code FOOTBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries once you make your first $5 play. That's promo code FOOTBALLFAN. Underdog. Make picks, win money.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Often not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 line at 1-878 or text Mike 467-369.
Oh, baby. So when these glasses come on, you already know the vibes, all right? We're doing cap talk, and we got to talk about my man Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek's contract is a whole situation. Tyreek's cap hit versus what his salary is a whole thing. The bottom line is, if Miami decides to cut Tyreek after June 1st, they'll save $35 million against the cap. That is a lot. That's a lot. And I think that's where I think we should focus our offseason right now. Obviously, the conversation has been around Tua and his contract because Tua's, no matter how we kind of do his contract, is going to be 99 million against our cap over the next 2 years. So it'll be 50 plus million this year and then 30 plus next. Like that's how the money kind of splits up. But that's a whole situation. Like we don't save any money by getting rid of Tua. It's all dead cap. So we'll have the Tua conversation later on, but there's no relief from the Tua contract. It's simply he's on the team and we pay him, or he's off the team and we pay him. Tyreek's a whole different situation because we still don't know what Tyreek's going to be. And I haven't heard any mention of Tyreek restructuring anything because we could do that. But again, when you restructure, you're basically moving money around, which means you have to keep the player around a little bit as well. Everything I've seen from Tyreek is he's doing what he wants to get out. The subliminal tweets, the things about the Chiefs, send me back home. And it feels to me like Tyreek is trying to push his way out. So maybe he's trying to make the decision easier for the team. I don't know what conversations they're trying to have right now based on the way John Eric and Jeff have been kind of moving up to this point. It doesn't seem like they want to bring Tyreek into this new version of the team. Now, the question is, could we even trade Tyreek? That, I think, is something worth exploring. I haven't seen what the cap relief of us trading him will be. I imagine it'll be the same. But we've only talked about cutting him at this point. There are people who would go for Tyreek right now. I do think there is value to him. I do think he would need to show us in the offseason that he's healthy. Right? The draft is in April. That would be, about 7-8 months removed from his main injury, 7 months removed from an injury. I don't think his knee will be recovered enough for him to be doing like real drills. I think he can be walking brace free. I think he could be doing that. But for us to try to move on from Tyreek and get any kind of equity back, the team would have to be desperate, and whoever he signs would have to be willing to give him a longer contract. I don't see that. I don't really see that happening. I would be curious if Tyreek is willing to try to play ball. Because Tyreek wants to win, and he wants to get paid. That's what Tyreek wants. Like, to make no mistake about it, he wants his money, I think, almost more than winning at this point. Almost more. But the amount of money he wants probably won't come with winning because nobody that's really winning is going to give him $30+ million, which is what he wants. So that's why. So Tyreek's in this conundrum where he's still under contract with Miami now. So he's going to get money this year regardless. And if we trade him, then, he still gets his money for the year. But if he wants any money past this year, he's got to play ball with somebody. I am very curious to see what the team elects to do because as of now, they haven't even mentioned Tyreek's name. Like, we're just pretending like he's not here. We're pretending like that decision is not looming. It's looming. It's looming. And maybe you'll hear more about it as we get close to the draft because teams like Buffalo, who don't have a lot of money but definitely need a wide receiver, I think there are a few other teams in the league who could use a receiver. Even a team like Carolina, who y'all know I'm like secretly like I watch and like, but that's mostly because I like Bryce Young. I don't really care about most other guys on that team, but I root for Bryce Young. But a team like Carolina, you think Ted McMillan is pretty good. Xavier Legette apparently is not good at playing football. Coker is a solid number 2, and maybe Jimmy Horn Jr. can be something. We'll see. But you throw a guy like Tyreek on that offense, it changes how people play Carolina. And as far as I know, they still have a decent amount of money to spend because they're not paying Bryce his real contract yet. So there's teams out there that I think can be on the cusp of winning that could play Tyreek. But really, to me, this is the linchpin of Miami's offseason. We have 8 draft picks. We'll talk about the draft later on. But as far as what moves can you do to make money, it's Tyreek first, probably Austin Jackson 2, Jason Sanders 3. I think that's like the order because we have a lot of decisions to make in the offseason about Jordan Brooks is going to want an extension. He's already talked about it. Tackle leader, going all pro. We see that. Devon Achane was an extension. Like all these things start coming up and you can't just give out extensions without getting the money back from somewhere else. And we're already overextended money-wise. So I look forward to that Tyreek Hill question coming up to Coach Hafley now. Like, hey, you got the team now. We haven't picked an offensive coordinator yet, so I think that may be a decision that we're kind of waiting on because if we get an OC that says I need an X receiver that does X, Y, and Z, and that's what Tyreek does, then I might hamstring the team a little bit. But I imagine they're trying to get an OC that's like, we can do this without Tyreek. And it's like, cool. Tyreek, you're out. Jalen, get in. Like that, I think that's how it's going to end up going. I don't have a good read on how they're looking for OCs right now. I'll give y'all more information down the line. But it seems like the Tua albatross is what everybody in the media wants to talk about because it's a quarterback and it's $53 million a year. We get all that. But really for Miami, the big deal is Tyreek's contract. But as always, y'all, thank you for tuning in to Dolphins Daily. We appreciate the love and support. Thank y'all for the likes and the subscribes. We'll see you next time on Dolphins Daily. Peace.